Now you are.
Make sure Malia can hear you.
Malia, can you hear us?
How you been, Russell?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, can you go ahead and bring the agenda up? And
Yes, I can.
Yeah, been
And
waiting.
we are recording.
Oh. So I call this meeting of the Best Practices and Strategic Planning Committee, Oregon Racing Commission to order. Roll call, Karen.
Karen Parkman is unavailable, so I will take her place. And I think the only official members we have are you and me, but we can appoint Dr. Stein if you'd like to be a member temporarily until we have a new commission.
That's fine. We're
Okay,
gonna need somebody to second things.
so we're all here.
All present, on then to approvals, can I make a motion as the chair?
And you can, we don't have a.
We don't actually.
So it doesn't.
Doesn't matter, it doesn't, no weight anyway, so, okay. Meeting agenda looks good, I saw it earlier, wonderful. New business, view of current progress on key performance indicators.
Okay, that's me. So our current indicators, they're changing. We originally had, the safety indicator, how many catastrophes, which I think we all know is pretty horrible right now. We're about 3 times what our goal is. So we're putting everything we can into safety to make sure that we have good tracks and, good persons to track good horses. The other one is customer service. One of the things that we've done for customer service, our customer service ratings, all of our other rates are very good and consistent. That's the safety one is the only one that's been an issue. So customer service, we've implemented a new customer service policy. The commission approved it not long ago. So we're training our new staff on that. We also have a strategic plan for license turnaround time. That one has been slightly challenging since we've gone all remote because of being able to access them in a timely manner using mail. So that will be changing this year because we're getting a brand new database that's going to go online, hopefully before the racing season. If it doesn't go on before the racing season, we will delay it until after the racing season is over. But that will allow people to register and get their license completely remotely from anywhere. And they will be able to check their license within the day and drastically shorten the time frame. There will be a learning curve, of course, but that's one of our big initiatives for customer services as well. The final area is how the commission board itself operates. We've implemented several things on that. One of the things that you asked for last year is that we spend more time on finance, and I think we have. We'll be talking about that more. Like, we're initiating 2 new key performance measures. One of those is the number of injuries during racing, and the number of scratches. So we'll be watching those. And the scratches isn't really measurable. It's just something we're tracking to see if there's any trends that we see one way or the other. And scratches can be good or bad. So that's where we are on our current key performance issues.
Excellent. Discussion with industry leaders, Oregon racing strengths and weaknesses.
So for this, we'd like to ask, let's start with anybody here. Anybody from the industry that would like to talk about your perceived strengths and weaknesses of the commission? And please introduce yourself for the record.
Russell Fine, President Gameplay Network. On the strength side, having been an ADW regulated by the Oregon Racing Commission for now more than a decade at Gameplay Network and previously at Bet.com, my perspective is that the ORC has a very strong regulatory structure and process for online ADW management. I personally can't speak to the physical racing side, But when we're dealing with all of our other regulators, there's great respect for the ORC, and our relationship with the ORC has been incredibly productive from our perspective. They've been helpful in us evolving a product line that has become profitable and is now beginning to generate tax revenue and handle. And they've, for us, been, well, a very good partner, but also helped us to align our operations properly for compliance and a number of different factors. So I would just admit, I think that is a core strength of the ORC.
Wait,
You know, I'll be honest, I don't have any because my purview really is just ADW with the ORC, and I haven't really seen any. You guys, from my opinion and from what I understand from other racing commissioners, are kind of the gold standard in this area. That's why so many of the ADWs, this is their master license.
It sounds to me like what you're saying is if you were to go to the ORC and say, hey, I need, like, this is right, you get good, useful compensation from folks there.
Yeah, or we would like to try something new, or we're trying to solve a business problem, we're not sure how to do it. We've talked about things like dealing with risk, or how to change our responsible gaming, or we're changing a policy or a process. How will this affect our audits, or what do we need to add before we implement it? And they work with us to make sure that whatever we do is already ready to go before we even start. So we consider them kind of partners, to be honest. I will call Micah regularly before we do something.
Myself, that makes me really happy. 'Cause I think it's very dynamic. And planning is important and great. It helps you get out the door in the morning and start doing things. But it's dynamic. We'll have to adapt and adjust. But your staff was finding that to be the case for our staff.
So that is my feedback. That is a strength. Thank you.
Rod Lowe, CEO of HRA LLC, Grants Pass Downs. I just want to commend the commission for doing a really good job. This has been a tough 3 years to come back from where we were in 22. And I think the commission has got stronger each year. It's been now more respected with, I think, our legislators and our House, and that we are made a lot of progress, and that Connie Wynn, as well as the rest of the commissioners, and just doing a really good job with that. We have our challenges, obviously, and always will, but we are finding ways to get through them and make it and keep racing alive in Oregon. And I hope that there's some point where we can even, instead of just maintaining, we can actually grow. And I don't know what that is yet. I don't have that answer yet, but that's my goal, is that we can grow. There are some conversations out there to try to make a Pacific Coast circuit, just kind of bring a whole bunch of states together, which maybe that could be something that could be positive for Oregon, as well as some of our adjoining states and stuff. So
We talk about rates of.
yeah.
I'm very new on this committee, first day on the job. But that is the subject, one of the subjects I think we really hit on is how do we grow, where do we grow, what's going to benefit the citizens of Oregon,
Yeah.
what's going to benefit the industry.
Yeah.
And I hope as a group, a collaborative group, as Russell said, I hope that we can all kind of work together to grow this industry, and hope the URC can support you guys appropriately.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything else you share with us?
I think there's a lot of good things that the ORC is doing, as far as, changing some different things. I do, just a little criticism. I'd like us to slow down a little bit. We're just causing a lot of stakeholders and industry people and horsemen and stuff. They're just getting a little upset with things.
Change.
Yeah, so maybe just a little slower pace. Maybe we can level out here at some point and let everything kind of settle, and then and then go on from there.
I know staff work hard on podcasts do and not spring things on folks. Say it's still.
There's a lot of changes that's happened in a short period of time. Yeah, like the 12-inch tube recently has been a big deal, like one of the horsemen I was with last night. No, this is the Butte using a short tube. She's not a real tall lady, and she has thoroughbred horses and they're tall, and she tried that 12-inch tube and she took half of the Butte herself because of trying to blow it through the tube, and stuff. That doesn't mean she can't do something different, but that's what she's used to doing. That's what she likes to do. It's the cheapest way for her to do it, but she was upset with that, and why can't the tube at least be 18 inches or something? Why does it have to be 12? And she actually brought a tube with her and showed me, trying to give it to a horse, and she was upset with it. So that was one thing.
Reasonable accommodation due to physical characteristics.
Yeah, well,
Yes, if by chance the commission wanted to make a change on that rule. I have to look, I'm looking at right now. I don't think that we've finalized that rule yet, so there's still the opportunity if you chose. I know that there was some talk between 18 inches and 12 inches. And I know that you had concerns of going down to 18 inches, so is your opinion any different? Or do you still think that we should keep it at 18 inches?
it's 12, I think,
It is 12, but.
That's the proposed.
okay.
Truly even 18 inches is not enough to get to a horse's stomach.
That's
So
true.
technically it's not a nasogastric tube. And probably the way that we should just address it is that possession of a nasogastric tube. And we could, the definition of the possession of a nasogastric tube, and you give a definition of what a nasogastric tube is. And then you can define it as a tube that has the potential to reach the horse's stomach. Or
I think we're gonna have to put some type of specific on there because my investigators are gonna have a really hard time with what that is.
yeah,
We can still think of, it. We don't have to make a decision.
I wish they would just use tube. It's-
I think there's work we can do and I understand the concerns. Sorry.
Do you mind if our state vet speaks? Is there a
Let's
district of-
I'm Dr. Alice Lombard. I'm very much acting state veterinarian. And I completely agree with Dr. Stein. I think there's some wording that we can do to clarify this. I do want to make this continue moving forward. So whatever we can do for wording, I think is important. So it's not something that somebody can stick from the nose to the stomach.
Right. Mhm. Correct.
And so we've tossed around the length issue a bunch. So I think let's get it right.
I appreciate that.
So do we want to bring this up to the full commission in our meeting? We can add that onto our agenda.
So besides that, Rod, are there other,
Well, I know there's more discussion on this. I mean, everybody's up in arms about licensing fees and how much it's going to cost them and all of that stuff. And I know that's an ongoing discussion. I know there's a bill that talks about increasing all of those. So I'm sure that they would like no change. And I understand that there needs to be some change. So it's a matter of not making it a hardship on the horsemen. That's the other, one of the main things I've heard recently.
And I can tell you to we are planning on having a number of meetings for that. They'll be open to the public. We will take public comment.
Sure.
We have committee members, there's one in this room that will be representing us. We've gotten some really positive feedback on the fees from some people.
Sure.
Because they are still lower than neighboring states.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
And we've changed some things to make it easier on some people. It's 2 years, the fees are going up, but for the lowest end, it's only going up by $5. So instead of paying $60, they only have to pay $50.
Yeah.
So for some of those positions that like rooms that come and go, it's less of a hardship for them is what we're hoping.
Sure.
To try to spread it out a little bit.
Sure.
We have some more work to do on that, and that's why we're gonna have the committee meeting. And not start the official rulemaking until after that committee meeting has happened. So I appreciate you bringing that up. We
Yeah.
think there would be concerns about that.
Yeah.
Or also, another thing we're looking at is, do we roll that out right away, or do we wait until the end of the summer? We may very well decide to wait until the end of the summer
Sure.
to give more people a chance to get used to it. I wanted to get the information out there right away so people know it was coming. So
Yeah.
it start concerning.
Yeah.
And maybe we got some of it wrong. Maybe one position is too high, another one's too low.
Sure.
So we really want to get that opinion and be able to work through that with you guys.
Okay.
But at $20 a year, we're losing so much money doing licensing.
Oh, I don't disagree with it. I'm not complaining about it, but
That's money we should be giving out to the horsemen.
yeah,
We can't.
A larger question this conversation brings to my mind is how do we continue? I think Connie did a really good job of demonstrating the horse racing industry value legislature passed. How do we continue to show Oregonians the contribution we make to the state? Because I think this is an assumption, but I think a lot of goodwill and funding potentially would accompany that recognition. There may not be a great answer. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
yeah. Yeah, we just, we're a state with such low purses, and we're not a Churchill Downs that's running for $125,000 maiden race, and stuff. So for our horsemen, every dollar is important to them, and stuff. And so they see it as a hardship, more than helping the state racing commission or something.
Yeah. I don't mean helping the racing commission. I mean showing voting citizens of Oregon how good racing is for the state.
Oh, yeah. No, that's
Then I think the racing commission is likely to be more empowered to help horsemen
right.
really do is.
Right. And maybe we can look at some down the road. I mean, maybe we can look at some legislative money to help fund that rather than the horsemen themselves funding it. I don't know what the answer is, but that would be an idea that we could work on and with our lobbyists and.
Well, do you have much outreach with, let's say, 4-H and other agricultural centric groups, at least down in Southern Oregon, to kind of create a greater atmosphere about agriculture and how my biggest complaint has over the years been horse racing has always been stuck into this kind of entertainment and gambling aspect, which is all true, but there is a significant portion that's really just agriculture. It's people owning farms, it's people, raising horses. It's even some farmers raising their own crops.
Sure.
So is there much outreach that?
There's a little bit of outreach, there's, in my years of doing this, there, everybody has their certain disciplines of their sport and they stay pretty much in those disciplines of their sport. Now we do engage like an equestrian team, like you've probably seen pictures, or I don't think you were there, but maybe you were, but we had a flag group come out on horses and entertain us during the race meet. And those were all local equestrian group that got involved in there. They also are my group that actually I pay a donation to and I pay some fees to, that they clean my stalls after the end of each meet. They clean up after the races on each day. So I do have that equestrian group that's doing that kind of work for us. We also have, which is not really a rural group, but the local band, Grants Pass Band, they do all of our 50/50 tickets and sell our programs. And they do it for donation, basically, that they keep the 50/50 part of the tickets and stuff. So we do get some of the local community involved in our races that way.
So much, Jim.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. So,
I am going to, after everyone else gets a chance, the rest in and then online, I'd like to ask if Russell would consider coming back up to talk about his fiance. Or not fiance, who is it? It's not you, I'm sorry, it's Will. Oh, wrong person, sorry, he's like,
I thought you got promoted.
yeah, hopefully he comes in during this meeting. Will.
She'll be on the next meeting, which we have the same. Okay.
See, I asked, I'll ask you to come up and talk about it after everybody else does, to kind of reach.
Sure, I can just do it first.
Okay, who else would like to speak about what we can improve? Please come up.
State. Heard. Sure.
Good afternoon, I'm Lee Erickson. I'm a owner, breeder, racer, along with my wife. I'm a member of the Oregon Thoroughbred Breeders Association. Couple of comments from the previous speakers that I can follow up on. One of the things is, your question was, how do we create interest and recognition? Is that there's no media hype now. You know, for instance, when we had the racetrack up here, the Oregonian would cover it and there'd be other coverages. But we've got big races coming up between the quarter horse $90,000 race this year and the stakes races for thoroughbreds at Grants Pass. Is that there's no outreach to the public to say, these big races are coming up. Get people to attend the track, which will help with handle and gate. But there's no outreach, even in Southern Oregon, about this. And so it's somehow, either we have to pay for it to get it in the news or get it somehow that these races are coming up. I mean, we can see the big hype for all the races on the California circuit and certainly coming up here with Kentucky Derby. The other thing is that in the future, you know, a lot of us older ones are aging out, and entry by younger people to be owners and breeders and stuff, they need incentives because they don't have deep pockets. And Connie gave you a document of how much it costs to get the first horse from being bred to the racetrack at $17,500. And that didn't count, you know, our labor and stuff. So there are necessary things to encourage new people to enter the market and get that word out. And if we look into the future, that's what we're going to need. We need those owners' incentives, because without owners, there is no horse racing. Owners are the absolute key. And then having facilities that encourage that in that partnership that we have. So we have a little phrase that we use. We meet somebody new, we have an Airbnb and we have a thing up there, you want to buy a racehorse? And people say, no, I can't afford that. And so to look at options for shared ownership to get people in. And so we say, what happens if you want to pay 10% of the training bills during the training and racing season? And then share in purses and stuff like that to make that easier, to get more people engaged. Because at the national level, you can go, what is it? You can buy, what, 1/1000% of a horse or something like that. And they don't have to do any background checks. They don't have to do anything.
Swap certifications.
Yeah.
Would something like that be implemented at the state level? I think that's.
Yeah, that's one thing that we have to explore as to how to do that. We've had partnerships, you know, people get licensed and stuff like that. And unfortunately, we had sometimes it gets difficult when you have partners, you know, that are paid owners in the horse versus we're looking at, sharing that stuff. Not stuff, sharing the fees and the fun and the rewards. So you can spread that out and get more people involved. So, when we come to licensing, that might be a question. Is there options for licensing at shared partnership rates? I don't know.
I guess, and that's.
Yeah. So we-
If the ORC player streamlining this thing, it would still be a civil agreement between party, I'm not a lawyer, but I guess that's what they
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Anything we can do to support, well, I'm not speaking for commission.
I mean, we have
I
to,
like the idea.
we have to think through that as we broaden.
Yeah, we might be able to do a partnership. What I would like to propose is that we do a partnership license as if it was an LLC.
So
So
one,
it's
we
a-
license one organization.
Yeah.
But the organization had multiple.
Yeah.
members.
Our tax people advise us not to have an LLC for our rent.
I'm saying like that.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We would have to write rules,
Hmm.
but I think we could write a rule that if there is joint ownership, anyone with less than X percentage, doesn't have to go through X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And I know your background costs are fixed,
Yeah,
with fingerprinting and the other stuff, is that you've got a certain minimum fixed rate. I'm quite familiar with that from previous careers. So,
and we'd have to discuss what people would need. They would be work on, but I think that's completely doable.
sure. Then I'd like to follow up on Rob's deal about, having a Pacific Coast Circuit. Now, we've entered our horses in Washington for the Northwest Race Series. And I've always wondered, why we don't have a West Coast race circuit of some type that would enlarge the number of people interested, the larger number of horses, and
Much
that.
coordination between commissions. That I Take or would take anything.
I almost wonder if that's a question, and I think you and Rob would know for the associations. It's more of an association.
Association.
Yeah, in California, in the standardbred industry, we used to have the sire stakes program that's specifically California's sires. And as the numbers dwindled, they decided, you know what, we get a lot of guys coming out from Iowa, we get people from Minnesota, so they changed the program to be a greater umbrella, that it's not just a California sire, but an Iowa sire, a Wisconsin, a Minnesota. So they created this new organization and in terms of the Pacific Northwest, even the West Coast, California's in trouble. So, some sort of association so that up in Emerald Downs, it would not just be, let's say Washington breds, but it would be Pacific, Northwest or Northwest. And that would have to do with you working with, your association working with the Washington Association or even California, Wyoming, Utah, whatever it might be, a new organization that can do that. Another point I'd like to make is very often racetracks don't really want to promote. And I can tell you from experience in the East Coast and from Saratoga Springs, the harness track. And at a certain point, the Horsemen's Association said, you know what, we can't rely on the racetrack to promote. So they started their own promotion. They do Facebook Live, they do all kinds of social media. Whether it's helping or not, I don't know. But at least they worked on getting the news media out to the track. They get legislators out to the track. They do things that it's free publicity. Obviously, you can't have legislators riding a horse. It was much easier in harness racing to get a legislator in the sulky, to go around. But tours of the backstretch, things like that with legislators, with community people, with, just human interest stories on the backstretch that you can get local media and it's free. You just, I mean, we're unfortunately, or fortunately as it may be, we're a regulatory body. We're not really involved in promoting the
Right.
sport.
Mhm.
And yeah, dollars are tight. It's tough to, get the publicity, but I think there's a lot of brainstorming that's got to go on to meet those needs.
And one last point on the future, and that's the conflict basically to develop between advanced wagering and gate handle, on site. And there's been a lot written about that. But when we talk to people about racing in Oregon, they go, there's racing in Oregon? And that was my previous comment. But now there's also the opportunity to actually bet live on Grants Pass during the commercial meet. And knowledge about that is really limited. I don't know. We have had good results on it, follow Jake Samuels. Bet
One.
just the one. Yeah. And so getting the word out that you don't have to be there in person. You can still follow Oregon racing, online. And somehow maybe that's up to the advanced deposit wagering people to advertise that because it's their handle. But anyway, just getting that information out. So.
And as a point to that, the ADW that we do have, they really don't make any money off of it. It's more of a favor to us because it's such a small group. Because there's so many costs that they have, but we do have one and we may be able to get more to help. That's the goal that we're working on.
So, and I realize that's in conflict with people attending it live, which is more fun, but
Yeah, I mean,
so.
why would you bet online if you could go live? If I could go to Kentucky Derby, I'll go.
Yeah, so,
Good comments. Those are really.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you'd like to share?
no, we're just here for the whole day, so we'll continue.
That's right.
Listen,
Thanks
Chair.
for your time and comments.
Yes, thank you.
Would
Anything
you,
else?
yes, anybody else? Yeah, if anybody else would like to speak.
I just readdressed one thing.
Yeah, and then we're gonna go to anybody online. If you're online and you want to raise your hand to speak next, we'll call you as soon as the speaker finishes.
Just real quick, just a comment that we don't do any advertising. I spend $30,000 at Sora. I spend $50,000 at the HRA meet. We have social medias, we have posters, we have radio stats, we have TV stats. So we do advertise and we do get it out there the best that we can. Media is very fickle in this day and age, and it's trying to address each thing. We do a little bit with the papers. We have a great local paper that puts our ads, our stuff on front page all the time down at Grants Pass. So we do get a lot of coverage, at least in the Southern Oregon area. But media is funny. We used to have a press conference every year, and we'd have all the local TV and papers and stuff, and we would get them a luncheon and stuff like that. And my goal was for each one of them, I says, I know that everybody's not going to come to the races because it's not their thing. All I want to know is I want to walk downtown Medford or downtown Grants Pass or Roseburg, and exactly what you said, ask somebody if they know there's racing in Oregon, and they would hopefully say yes. But that was my ploy. I've done that for 30 years, and told those staff. But today you can still walk down Grants Pass and somebody hasn't been to the races and somebody doesn't know it's there. And we do our best to try to reach everybody, but it's a hard thing to do.
Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah.
And Hey, free to talk. Unmute though.
Okay, there I am. Is that you calling me, Connie? I couldn't hear you.
Yes, we're calling you.
Okay, cool. No, I mean, I'll just cover a few things just to pick up where Rod just was. I mean, it doesn't get noticed, but Tag and his group, have applied for, been the recipient of the tourism grant for the last 2 or 3 years now. And the only stipulation on the grant, and this would be one grant for SORA and one grant for the HRA meet, but the stipulation being it has to be spent more than 50 miles away from Grants Pass itself. And so that's one way we spread out a little bit and try and get the word out to. We've got quite a few people that come in from the coast. So we put some money out there. Roseburg gets a good chunk, and then down on Medford and the other side of Medford. So we do try and spread out as much as we can with trying to get the word out and stuff like that. So just to finish that up, as far as the commission, I guess, and you guys probably don't even realize it because you are where you are, but in years past, it was always, well, we'd get one new commissioner here or a second new commissioner there, but we'd always have a bunch of experienced ones still on the deal. And you guys kind of all got thrown in to be new together. One day there were just a couple people gone, and then Diego decided he was done, and lo and behold, we got a brand new commission. And I just wanted to commend you on what you've done, because I think that all the commissioners have worked really hard to educate themselves and continue to do that. And that will pay dividends for all of us going down the road. And of course, Connie's a big part of that because, she's sort of got the responsibility to bring that information to you as much as she can. So you've had a difficult situation you got thrown into, even though you probably didn't even realize it. But so I really do commend you for that, because I can notice a lot of growth just since you all started. And as that happens more and more, I mean, that's just going to be to the benefit of all of us. So, yeah. So that's that side of it. I mean, on the other side, also a little bit of what Rod said too. And I'm going to, my own constituency, I'm going to damn with faint praise a little bit here, because it's difficult when you have a largely older group. You're talking about how your new database is going to be, be able to do all your stuff online and all that. And, to us that deal with online stuff every day, that's a wonderful thing. I'm all over that. But I have a difficult time even holding a Zoom meeting, trying to get my whole board to go. So, yeah, it's just a little bit more of a challenge. And as you're going through the things that you're doing, kind of just be aware of the fact that, made the decision you're going to switch to twice a year Coggins. So you got an expense there. You're talking about raising fees for licenses. You got an expense there. And then you tack on, what the incredibly crazy price of what hay costs these days, and toss in the price of fuel and all of that. And it kind of starts to pile on the horsemen a little bit. So it's not anybody's particular issue or fault, but it's kind of something we want to be aware of, because one of my biggest concerns is that we don't have many young trainers and owners out there. And every time we get one that's, that shows some aptitude for this industry, I mean, we try and do our best to get them more and more involved as quick as we can, because one of these days, some of these older folks are going to say, I'm done. And right now, we don't have the people to replace them. So we just need to protect ourselves a little.
It's not getting cheaper, and it's not getting lighter either.
No, exactly.
Okay. Anything else? I do want to address one thing is you're very well aware of the fact that some people are less willing or interested in using a computer, and our investigators will continue to do on-site licensing with those individuals. So
Yeah.
we know that we will continue to do that for anybody who doesn't want to, can't, or doesn't feel comfortable doing it online. And do we have any other people? Otherwise, we need to go on to the next subject to stay on time. See.
We kind of compressed items 3 through 5, or 2, about 3 through 5. So I think maybe unless people have more, anybody have any on those items they'd like to touch more on? I'd like to go to Micah, to talk a little bit about number 6.
This was not planned.
This was not planned. Hi, Riley. Good morning, Michael Lloyd. I'm Oregon Racing Commission staff. This was brought to my attention by Will Alan Petrovic, who's the CEO of Amwest, one of the ADWs. He has an associate, Anise Montplaisir, who's executive director. I'm not sure I pronounced her last name right. She's got a 501(c) group called Amplify Horse Racing. And I encourage everyone to check out, anyone listening here to amplifyhorseracing.org. They try to connect the youth with the horse racing industry. And to quote from their website, they connect mentees with equine mentors to learn about pursuing unique careers in the thoroughbred industry. And they're trying to do this essentially right now. They're in Kentucky, and forgive me for not knowing how widespread they are, but I believe they are working with other groups in other states. And I think it's certainly worth looking into, because the youth in this industry is something I think is something sorely lacking. Earlier, if we can expand that aspect, we ensure our future. So again, that website is amplifyhorseracing.org. Org. Yeah. And yeah, short, simple, sweet. And I will leave it to that. Thank you.
I've got a bunch of little kids. And the reason I'm here, I've never raced a horse for money in my life, but I want my kids to be able to see this in Oregon when they get older. That's important to me. So thanks for sharing that. I appreciate hearing the page. It sounds like everyone is on with regard to expanding this great sport. With regard to number 6, anybody else have any other comments or thoughts they'd like to share?
The quarter horse industry has the same type of thing. So I think
Now, this is Rob Lowe.
Can you,
I'm sorry.
I know that we're all used to.
The informal folks in general.
Informal, but we're gonna be here, we gotta do it by the book.
Sorry, Rod Lowe again. The quarter horse industry has the same thing. They have a scholarship program. They have a youth program. There's a youth racing program. I think if we could coordinate both of those things together with the Thoroughbred organization and the Quarter Horse Association, they host a youth day at the races where they can follow a trainer and learn how to watch them take care of a horse, learn about the horse, and they have a whole youth program. And I think that's something that we could coordinate at Grants Pass for sure, with both organizations, and bring youth into it to have a youth day. And just like your kids could come and they could just follow a trainer around and see what they do all day and stuff like that. So I think that's something that we could work on. Okay.
Okay.
I'll make it short and sweet. Alice Lombard, veterinarian.
That 2 hours.
No, short and sweet.
Strategic planning meeting.
I really want to work with our local universities as well. We've got some interest from some of our veterinarians and bringing some of those kids in. And if there's a way that we could do externships and internships with the vets on the ground, it's a long-term project, but it's something I really feel passionate about.
Chase down vets to.
Well, that too. Exactly.
Thank you.
That'll be covered in our whole.
Yes, it will. Yes.
This will be short and sweet. I'm Connie Erickson. I'm president of the Oregon Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association. We began offering a scholarship for people interested in thoroughbred racing last year. We can no longer fund that scholarship. We'll talk more about that later.
It looks like we have one more comment from Leah, and then at that point, you can ask if there's public comment. We can close.
Okay,
Leah.
I'm Leah Tom. I'm with the ORC. I just wanted to let you guys know that on our end of the Oregon Racing Commission, we have been trying to outreach directly. I've sent emails to our local extension center in Josephine and Jackson County, and trying to reach out with some 4-H groups. I haven't heard back from a lot of them. This has been in the last like 2 months, but if anyone has personal contacts with 4-H groups, and I love the idea of Rod's idea of having a youth day. That is something that we are trying to do with the ORC to get youth directly connected with racing. That's all I have.
Any other public comment?
Any other public comment? Good. Any objections to me adjourning this meeting so we can take a bathroom break, come back to the next one?
Nope.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. I've got a lot of questions.
Sorry. I guess if I can get some cat.